Welcome to another episode of the Scottish Property Podcast. My name is Stephen Clark and I'm joined by a co-host in the studio, Nick Ponty. Bringing you all the latest news, guys, keeping you up to date with the property market. Welcome to the Scottish Property Podcast, Neil Mcleod from Property Partners. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure to be along.
And you spoke on our networking events, and it feels rude that we've not had you on the podcast. So,
First time I've met you, though, Neil. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was good to meet you, Nick.
A fellow letting agent as well.
Yeah.
So you've spoke a couple of times at the networking events on EPC. So we thought it'd be good to get you on and chat about it because it seems to be quite a topical subject that more and more people are paying attention to. But before we got into the EPCs, can you give the listeners a wee bit of background about yourself and what's you doing?
I can try, Stephen. I can try. So I'm based up in North Aberdeenshire, up in Banff, and I've got two trading companies. So one's a letting agency, one's a construction company, and the two kind of work hand in hand. So the construction company will maybe be doing refurbs for the letting clients, landlords, and the EPC side of that, I got into that through my architectural background when I was back being employed. Kind of realised that I knew as much about it or more than the EPC assessor doing it. So, and it fits in with the letting agency side of the work quite a lot. I've tried to offload it a few times to like sub it out or bring people through, but I've actually looked back and thought, actually, doing the EPCs has brought me a lot of work, whether that be projects for the construction side or landlords to manage, because I'm going in and helping them maybe just to do an EPC, and the end of it, I've maybe got a refurb and a property to manage out of it. So I'm kind of starting to use it more as a sales technique. And as you say, it's becoming more and more of a thing people are aware of. When I started out doing them, people just use them as a tick box exercise.
Yeah, who looked at an EPC like 10 years ago when you were buying properties?
4 years ago, we never looked at an EPC.
Exactly,
now it's like, shit, it becomes a... For the listeners that don't know what the EPC is, can you explain a bit of background on what the EPC is, when it came out and why we're talking about it now?
Yeah, so it's well over 10 years since it's been in place. I think maybe 2008 it first came in. So if you're selling or renting a property, you need an energy performance certificate at the time of advertisement. I've done a few actually where it's been a private sale, so they don't need it to advertise, but the solicitor or the lender have said at the last minute, you need an EPC. So I've been phoned on a Friday morning saying, we're completing today, need an EPC. Can you go and do one? I've had one where the place was actually getting knocked down. That was the plan, but they still insisted on doing an EPC. So,
and how long an EPC valid for when I get done?
10 years they're valid for, but if you're going in to do a major refurb, and you're looking to boost that EPC, you're probably looking to do it before then. But yeah, 10 years, so you can forget about it if you've got a seat.
Seems quite a long period of time though, doesn't it? Considering that the government keeps sort of changing it and all their targets and all that they've got to meet.
Yeah, and I suppose looking at it from that point of view, one you had done 10 years ago, you've done absolutely nothing to that property, will probably get a different rating or at least a different score. It might not be a different band today because the methodology of how they assess it has changed in that period. So it's dangerous to assume that you've got an EPC that's fine now when it's getting renewed that it'll still be that case.
And so why we're having the conversation now is they've got changes. They want to make you a minimum rating, don't they? Can you explain a bit about the ratings then for people that don't know?
Yeah, so you've got obviously from A, I think it's down to G, I think is the lowest from memory. And that is both on the energy efficiency of the property, but what a lot of people don't tend to look at is also the CO emissions of the property. And there has been a bit of a discussion about whether they look at that, which one is taking priority on that, but at the moment it's generally about the energy for efficiency they're looking at. So the targets you mentioned there, Stephen, they previously were looking at bringing it in to get it into an E by a certain period, then to a D. Then the Greens got involved in that process. COVID came along and it never actually got implemented. So now their current proposal is to make it by 2025 is the C rating. And then for a new tenanted property, either one you've taken on, brand new property, putting on the market for the first time, or a tenant going in, and 2028 for all properties.
Existing tenancies.
But I had a chat with my accreditation body yesterday. Look back at the email, I asked them this question over a year ago when I was doing one of the events just to see, is there any update on progress? And the answer at that time was no. The answer yesterday was still no. So they've not, but he actually said he thinks it's going to go out for consultation now.
Yeah.
So that suggests to me that it's not going to be implemented.
You would have thought because the Greens obviously have got an element of power in the Scottish government now, they are part of the Scottish government, they'd really be driving it through as well, but it does seem to be just kind of like left in limbo at the moment. So
England's minimum regulations have came in, haven't they? Ratings?
Yeah, but they're not as strict as ours or as stringent, and they're kind of doing it in a tiered process, which we looked at doing before. So yeah, it is in. But it's not hitting that many properties down there.
Yeah.
Let's be honest here, right? Do you, your personal opinion, do you think it will actually come into effect in 2025?
Well, it'll definitely come in. Will it come in at that specific point as the way they've stated it? I wouldn't be convinced by that based on all the other legislation that's come out over the period, but it will come.
It will come, because it's got to come, because, and part of me thinks, what is it, why are we making this such a big deal now as landlords? And 2-3 years ago it wasn't, but it is obviously because governments have now got to, it's part of their plan, and it's very important obviously with the whole zero emissions thing and all that they've got to meet these different quotas and all that. And you look at COP26 that was in Glasgow, and all the governments now have got these targets now, haven't they? So housing is obviously a massive contributor to CO emissions and stuff.
Because they have brought in the renewed building regulations for new builds, or if you're doing extensions where you're going for building warrant. That was delayed, but it is now in place now. So that's more stringent on that side. And in their consultations, they've spoken about looking at privately owned homes as well, so it's not. So they're definitely looking at the whole housing thing, as you say, Nick. So it's
just when you touched on the new build properties, so the house builders and all that, what have they got to do at the moment?
I've not looked at it in detail because I don't deal with that side, but it is more stringent on U values and stuff. Looking at the different compartments of the walls and the windows and the roofs and stuff. But also longer term, they are looking at like a kind of net zero target. So when it comes to your heating systems that you're putting in new builds, they'll have to be net zero in effect. So not gas boilers or oil boilers and stuff like that realistically going forward. I can't remember the timeframes for that, but that is kind of moving in now.
The targets that they're talking about setting, how realistic do you think the target is achievable for the stock that you can think of as in the private rental sector?
As in getting to a C?
Yeah.
Totally depends on the types of. If you go into town centres, you're talking about a flat in a block that's got a flat below it, above it, maybe 3 sides of it. So it's only got like one outside wall. Pretty easy to get to. It's maybe even already a C there, even though it's got a crap boiler and all the rest of it, because it's not losing any heat. You go a rural property.
What if it's like single glazed windows or sash and case single glazed windows and in a listed building and things like that as well?
You might still be close if you've got all of those conditions already where you're not losing heat from above to the sides and below you, but definitely you'd probably get into a D with that potentially. Every single one's different. You can have because of the different parameters.
Can you give us any kind of, just to give listeners a wee bit of an idea about what we could be dealing with, a sort of case study or a type of property that you might see round about? Like I'm based in Glasgow, right? So you a lot of our stock is like tenement buildings, tenement flats and stuff like that, and what sort of improvements would you generally have to do to bring them up to minimum standards that are going to be coming in,
So there's 2 kind of ways of looking at it. You can look at the fabric of the building, so insulation. So if you're doing a big refurb on the property, I would always be encouraging people, anything, like if you're stripping out the kitchen, for example, just go that bit further and insulate the walls at that point, or the bathroom. You don't have to do, like if the living room's fine or whatever, you can maybe leave that until you get to that point. And also, with doing the EPCs, what I do quite a lot with clients is we'll create a draft one, as it is today, and I'll say to you, right, Nick, what are you planning to do to that property? You'll maybe say, I'm putting in a new kitchen, I'm putting in a new bathroom, and I might say, well, if you put in this insulation in there, we'll put it in the EPC as a draft at that point and say, right, that's actually going to get you your C rating.
So even although the insulation's not put around all the walls, that can still have a...
Can do. It's a little bit more work to input it into the system, but if you're doing if you've got maybe the point you mentioned, Stephen, about maybe listed building, maybe in the living room it's got lots of coving or stuff that's actually potentially even listed, or you don't want to touch it, so you don't want to insulate that room or disturb it, you can look at doing the other rooms from there.
And how do you know the insulation's actually been put in? I mean, do you have...
When I'm, as an EPC assessor going in, you mean? So that's where I always try and tell people to engage with their EPC assessor at the start. So if you've done that draft process, also... if you've got a contractor doing it, you'll have invoices, paperwork to do that. If it's building warrantable works and it has that information on it, and we can use that proof, the other obvious one is lots of photos.
Yeah.
Because I have gone into properties where people have said, I've done X, Y, and Z to the place, and there's no proof. They've maybe picked up the insulation from Marketplace or whatever, done it themselves, wasn't built to warrantable works, and everything's completely finished decoration-wise, and I can't see it. So we've not been able to put it in.
One of the ones that pops up all the time on the Facebook groups and all that is electric heating, isn't it? So like a lot of people say, oh, you know, like I've got to put in like, I want to put in new heaters and stuff like that, but they're looking at these panel heaters, and other people are saying, no, you need to get a increased rating, you need to put in the storage heaters. Can you give us a wee bit of guidance on that?
They're probably right in that regard at the moment. So if you've got older storage heaters right now, you remove them and you put in new modern electric panel heaters that have got, you know, you can control them from your phone. You can, if you leave the door open, it knows that.
They look nice, don't they? Like all modern and all that.
In my view, as a letting agent or a landlord, they're more user friendly than a storage heater. But the modern slimline high heat retention storage heaters get a better EPC rating at the moment, and the main reason for that is how they use the electricity. So a storage heater can take it at a cheaper rate, store that, and use it when you need it. A panel heater is instantly used. As soon as you turn it on, it's using electricity. So that's where it's getting penalised.
That's the kind of theory behind it,
But it might be, well, it will be, but we don't know what the setup of this is going to be. When they update the methodology for doing an EPC, they're talking about electric heating being looked at more favourably. Because if you think back to, I don't know when the last time it was done, but the percentage of renewable energy creating electricity when that was done would be far, far lower than it is today. So they need to kind of reflect that when they do it. So it might be you've got electric heating at the moment, and then say it's a year's time they upgrade the system, you might get a better EPC rating by doing nothing, which I suppose is what every landlord is looking for.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Because they've really got a target to get rid of gas, haven't they?
Yeah.
What was the target now? Is it in effect, or is it?
I think it was 2030 or 2032.
This is the thing that gets me, right? Because they're basically going to rule out gas boilers eventually. But at the moment, if your boiler goes, as a landlord, you're putting in another new combi boiler, aren't you? You know?
I mean, that's the simple, like you asked the question about, say it's got older heating and stuff. At the moment, still you're probably cheapest. If there's gas in that block, that is probably still your best way of getting a decent EPC rating and make it. You've also got to make it attractive for the tenants. What do they want?
Yeah,
but you're saying that it might get accessed differently in the near future. So you've put in a gas central heating system, thinking you're getting your C rating, but that might change real soon, and you've just installed a gas central heating system to then be downgraded in the future.
That's a good point. We don't know how that's going to be impacted. But I would have thought if you're putting in a gas boiler today, you're going to get your money's worth out of the boiler still. Yeah. Before it's an issue. New builds, obviously, the new targets, they're phasing it in that it's going to be harder and harder. Next day, you won't be allowed to put in gas boilers, etc., on new builds. But I think they're going to have to do that over a lot longer term on an existing stock.
Do they have the technology for other sources of heating?
Well, at the moment, if you look at the guides, it seems to be fairly focused on air source heating. But if you're talking about a block of flats, that's not really practical.
No.
So, and
because that should be heat pumps.
Yeah.
So that's just the thing, isn't it? Like you listen to a lot of the politicians and all that, and I think it was Boris Johnson who came out with the heat pumps, you know, and they were going to give everybody £5,000 and all the rest of it. This was down in England, and this was held up as the solution. But then you hear a lot of other commentators. I think we had a guy on the podcast before as well who said that heat pumps weren't the answer, you know. And like you said about certain types of housing stock, it's just not feasible.
No.
So heat pumps are probably not the answer on a lot of properties. So they need to start, I think they just need to start getting people who actually know, you know, the scientists, the people who really know about this sort of stuff. Government need to speak to them, don't they, and really get a strategy, like how are they going to solve this problem? Because they just keep coming out with all sorts of nonsense.
Yeah, on the heat pump side, I've done it on a few projects, not rental properties. I've not actually dealt with a property that's got it, unless it's a new build. Have you guys dealt with any that have got it? Because it's a different way of using it.
My mum's got a heat pump, but it's in a rural property. It's just a detached house.
You'll maybe know from dealing with her stuff. My folks have got one as well when we renovated. And I put in one in my own house, actually, that we're fully renovating. But it's not like you can turn up with a gas boiler and just turn it on and half an hour later it's not, it doesn't work like that.
Aye.
So I can see
Gradual.
loads of tenants phoning up saying my heating's not working, and it's working fine. It's just
I've
they don't
tried
know how to
doing
use
my
it.
radiators. The radiators are just not getting hot.
So that's what actually puts it off in a rental for me a little bit.
I went in at my mum's house, so I was like, something wrong with your radiators, they're not really that hot. She's like, no, that's just the way it is. It's a gradual heat. I'm like, all right. Okay, so you just spent like whatever it was, 12 grand, and you can't even get like
Hot radiators.
piping hot radiators.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I think it's all to do with that. I mean, I listen to a lot of the industry experts and all that, and they say, you know, the thing that they should be focusing on is the insulation
Yes,
first and foremost.
fabric first approach is how they call it.
To retain the heat and rather than the actual kind of heat pumps being the answer. But yeah, that's a massive job for like older properties, and from a landlord's point of view and an investor's point of view, it's almost like a bit of a ticking time bomb, isn't it? Because none of us want to think that, you know, in a few years' time we're going to need to spend like
20 grand stripping out all the laughing plaster from our old properties and then insulating it and then resheeting it.
In an ideal world, like you'd want, you know, all your houses to be eco-friendly and efficient and all that. So that would be brilliant. Do you ever look at any other like countries or anything like that? Or have you read anything about how other countries are doing with this sort of stuff, or you know, like
I as in like improving. A lot of them are more focused on the fabric side of the building, and then when it comes to heat sources, some of them are being a lot more creative when it comes to more built up areas or blocks of properties where you're maybe having a community system rather than each individual looking at it. So like if you take a tenement, if you had the whole tenement, you would have quite a lot of options for yourself as a landlord, maybe to do something quite creative there. But if you've just got one in that tenement, one in another tenant, and you're dealing with some occupier owners, some other landlords and stuff, you're kind of left to sort out your own place and not really look at it that way.
I mean, that could really be the next thing. I mean, you know, I like a wee bit of sensationalism, you know, so I'm going to say it could really be the next thing to really kill the buy-to-let market, though. Do you know what I mean? Because
here's negative next striking again.
taking a good headline here of, you know, what you see in the papers and all that stuff, because
It's another, you're right, though. It's another nail in the coffin to a certain extent, where, because, like, you know, look at your portfolio realistically and assess it. If you were to try and get all these to a C, there'd be some that would struggle, or there'd be some that you need to put a fair bit of investment into to get it to that point.
So what are you talking about? So you talked about the insulation there, right? If you're doing up a kitchen or bathroom, insulating the walls, would that be the kind of like, what's that insulation you get? Is it like sheets that you get now that you put in the walls?
There's only a multitude of different insulation products you can use now, but you've got like your PIR boards, which is basically your Kingspan and all the rest of it. You've got like your glass wools or different kind of wools. You could use natural products like sheep wool, etc., which I've used in a few projects. There's certain types of spray insulations, but they're all trying to
do the same job.
well, some of them are like the spray insulations or other ones like that. They've maybe got like sales teams and stuff, so they're maybe trying to push you on that side.
Yeah.
Or some of them, if you're dealing with properties that have maybe got tenants that are getting some benefits and stuff, they can get certain things. So companies are onto that, and they're maybe pushing that side.
I saw the spray foam insulation like advertised quite a bit in the last few years, and I thought it looked like a really, really good idea, especially in older buildings, like spraying underneath the floors and up in the attic spaces. But then I saw people saying that there was a lot of issues where it wasn't getting to breathe in because they've got no cavity gap for air circulation, so it was just getting moisture and damp. And
I have used it in certain situations, but there's other situations where they've said to me that no, it should be fine, and I've just not been convinced. So I think you need to do a bit of, like buying a property, do a bit of due diligence yourself on it, because it has its place in certain situations. But yeah.
And what about like obviously, like if you're a ground floor flat or a ground floor tenement or something like that, then obviously you can't do roof insulation. So would you look at doing like floor insulation? Like,
yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it from which bits to insulate first, generally the most heat's lost out of the roof. So that would be your number one to look at. Then the walls, then the floor. Like a lot of people say, oh, I'll change out my windows. But if you've got no insulation in the rest of the building, that's not going to make a massive difference to your EPC overall. It's your insulation and generally the heat system that are the two things.
So would that be your hierarchy then? If you were trying to improve your EPC rating drastically, it'd be insulation first, then heating, then windows, and then I'm assuming what would be the next thing, like energy efficient light bulbs or?
Yeah, the lighting doesn't make a massive difference, but it helps. But also, you've got to think about some of these things, what are tenants looking for as well. So some of them you can tick off as easy wins. But yeah, insulation generally helps a lot in which type of heating system you've got. So if you had electric panel heaters at the moment, the way the EPC system set up using electric instantly, and then you had a modern gas combi boiler, if you put those two things in the system, there's quite a lot of points difference that will flip from, and the same as if you improve the insulation. But if a property's maybe got some insulation, existing property, and you're thinking, right, I'll do a bit here and a bit there, it's not going to make as big an impact if you didn't have any and you're putting in some insulation, so there's a limit.
Is there anything you can do as like a home test? Like, say, for example, is there any websites around or resources you can go on and just like plug in different things and then kind of get the outcome, or do we have to go to an assessor like yourself to actually do that initially?
Just as an initial thing, there's certain things you can do, like a lot of the suppliers, for example, can have U-value calculators that you can put in what you've got and see what that comes out as. And I think Home Energy Scotland do have certain things, or they'll maybe do assessments on properties as well, produce a different kind of report. Quite how they do that, I'm not. If they do that for landlords, I'm not sure, but they do it for homeowners certainly. And
do you know anything about? Because one of the other questions that there seems to be kind of, you know, people get excited about is, you know, that there's sometimes grants come out, or like, you know, certain tenant, if you've got tenants on benefits, I've heard before, they can sometimes get like free boilers installed and all the rest of it. So are you aware of anything at the moment, or anything that the government are running?
Yeah, there's various things they're doing for homeowners. It's a lot more straightforward. I'm actually doing that for my own house just now with the air source, and you're getting $7,500 of a grant, and it was 10 grand of an interest-free loan. I think they flipped that, so you actually get 9 grand back. For tenants that are on benefits and stuff, there's definitely schemes out there for that, and there's companies actually contacting tenants, because we had a tenant come to us this week, an elderly tenant that's on benefits, and a company's contacted them. She was a bit concerned if it was legit, what have you. I looked into it and it was. So she's going to get an assessment, because it's like, it'll be interesting to see what comes back.
Where would you kind of start if you wanted to like look at that? Would you just go on the energy saving? What's it called?
Energy Savings Trust, and they've got items for landlords, and I think it depends. If you're a private landlord with a limited amount of properties and you own them in your own name, you can go down one route. If you have more properties, or you're done it in a limited company, it's classed as more a SME loan. So like if you were a small business, it's the same criteria. And I have gone down that route on our commercial building, looking at that when we were doing that up. But I didn't go forward with that application in the end. It was a bit tricky, but I do know others who have got it. I'm not aware of many landlords that have bothered to go down that route to access it. It'd be an interesting one on the Facebook page if anybody has done that. But yeah, I think a lot of people are just kind of, landlord-wise, are just doing what they need to do as part of their managing their portfolio.
Bare minimum without putting in the huge implications just yet.
Yeah, but I think I kind of mentioned it when I did the presentation at the networking event. I do wonder if long-term it'll be the market it drives it a little bit. Not just the legislation. So if you've got
the cost of living crisis,
yeah, and it seems to be when people are buying homes, nobody really wants to buy a house now and do it up the same like maybe we did when we first bought our house. Most people just want to buy a new build or whatever it is and move in.
Like it was some paint, maybe.
Yeah. So I think the same might come from rentals, that if you've got a really poorly.
Do you find tenants, when they come to look at your properties on your letting agent, do you find that they're now looking at the EPC, or they're asking for the EPC, or they're aware of what it is now?
I think not really, to be honest.
Right.
I think they're still, Nick, you probably agree that they're still more that's looking at the type of heating mainly.
They're not. They don't really look at the EPC rating, but they're just complaining about, you know, drafts, windows, heating, that sort of thing.
If they walk in and see like the older type storage heaters, that's usually like putting them off. Yeah, if they see that in the photo or whatever. But
I think that it's the problem is in Scotland. I mean, we do have a lot of just old, inefficient homes, just leaking, drafty homes. You know, like the kind of stock that we have is like, it's a lot of old, cold, damp properties, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? So we do have quite a bit of work on our hands, I think. You know. Yeah. But what's the thing about the did you mention about solar panels as well?
Yeah, so that, I mean, we've done a project recently talking about an old building stock, an old rural house. The client said to me, go and look at what we need to do to get it up to a C rating long term. I got it to a D with insulation, heating improvements, but beyond, I almost starting again. You couldn't get it into like reframing the walls almost. You would have to do it by insulation. So the only way you can do this is by some sort of renewables. They didn't want to do any renewables with the heating, so we're going with solar PV on the roof, and that is taking them into the
So by putting the renewables, that does have quite a heavy impact on the rating. Yeah.
But then what we were talking about earlier, we're improving the fabric of the building, because some properties, I'm almost certain, you could do nothing to the property and it's on the borderline, put on solar if it's applicable, and it would take you into your C.
Yeah.
So that might be your most cost-effective way, or if you're not allowed to do anything else because it's listed,
Again,
whatever.
it brings you back to like us as landlords, and predominantly we invest in flats, don't we? Do you know what I mean? Most of our stock's flats, and you're not going to. Where are you going to put solar panels? You can't. It's not really.
I think if it's a lot of it's flats, the biggest win you'll get is for the heating system.
Systems. So that's what we've got to kind of put a focus on.
Which right now still means gas central heating's the best rating
at the moment. Yeah, and we're doing a lot of flats that. Because we're in a more rural location, even flats, a lot of the towns or villages we deal with don't have gas. So they've maybe got older electric heating or whatever, and we are generally putting in, at the moment when it comes to heating, a mixture of the high heat retention storage heaters in the main living spaces, and then maybe bedroom or whatever, it's just an electric panel heater which goes in as secondary heating. So that's one kind of workaround, because obviously those new slimline storage heaters are a lot more expensive than a modern electric panel heater. So
I mean, I've heard they're pretty good, the new storage heaters. Like, we've only got a couple that we've put in lately, but the tenants that we speak to say that they're pretty good. I don't know what they cost, but
they're pricey. They're almost the price of a flipping boiler.
If you get a 2-bed flat and say you were putting them in in the bedrooms as well, you would be the price of gas central heating almost.
So any tips for, obviously, people that are starting out, this has not been the forefront of the agenda when they're actually looking to buy properties to rent out and stuff like that.
So if they're just like looking at one and not bought it yet, obviously you're looking at the home report and looking at the EPC. If it's got a poor EPC, you maybe want to look at the report to see what kind of construction, etc. is. But I would be tempted to look up other ones in the area, or if it's up flats, look up other ones on the register. And it might be that nobody's put in new heating in that particular one that's for sale, but in the block they've all got C's already, so there might be an easy win there.
So that's good. So that's like almost like, it's like you're doing your price comparison comparables, but you're doing your EPC comparables with ones down the street. So you would just go to EPC register.
I just, even to this day, I just go into Google and go EPC register Scotland. If you put in that bit, that takes you to the website and you just do a search.
Put the postcode in.
Put the postcode in and it pops up the ones that are there. Sometimes when we get a request for an EPC as an EPC assessor, that's part of the process. We've got to go in and check there's not one already. It amazes you the amount of people that phone up looking for an EPC and you say, yeah, you've got one. Right, when's it run out? 7 years.
Our landlords are always happy when they get that phone call, because that's one of the things we do. We ask for the certificates and then we just check, and then sometimes like, oh, you've already done EPC on this, and that'll save you 60 quid or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you look at an old EPC certificate, can you see how it was assessed, or did you just see?
No, that's a good point, because if, like, say you've got an EPC and you give me the EPC and say, right, how can I improve that? I don't see how the data's been entered or how he's done it. I can make assumptions, but some of it, some of it I can look at and go, he's just made that up, or that doesn't seem to stack up. But
because I'm assuming if someone's done an EPC assessment 6-7 years ago and it's got insulation, and that person done the assessment had that information, right? Okay, we've insulated that, insulated X, Y, and Z. You go and get the new owner or whatever to go and redo it, but you've not put in the insulation because you never saw it. Surely the EPC rating will go down the way rather than up the way, and you're like, fuck, what happened there? But it's not showing a true reflection of what's actually in the building. So there's no way of looking at the back.
The only way you can do that, because I've asked the accreditation body, and even if it's the same one, they won't look at it. The only way to do that is to contact the original assessor, which, to be fair, their details are on the back of every EPC. So that would probably, the trick there is a lot of them will have been done when it was done for a home report. So they'll have been a Shepherd's or a DM Hall, and they are probably not really interested in helping you or messing about with an EPC for you, because the EPC is just part of the home report process for them, and they don't really want to get involved in that. So if it's been done by more than an independent one, they're probably more than happy to look at it for you, and they can pull out the data, go, if you did X, Y, and Z, you maybe be there.
Going back to what you're talking about the market there earlier on, it will be interesting to see. I mean, if they do achieve this goal that they've got, to say they get it all lined up, 2025, minimum requirement C's and all the rest of it, is that going to affect properties that have only got F's and E's that they're trying to sell in the open market? Do you know what I mean? Is that going to affect the price? Are people going to see that as an opportunity? Investors like us to negotiate on price. Are these properties going to struggle to sell?
Probably, I would have thought would be my take on it, and I think that's a good point. I think it will create opportunities for people. If you're, as mentioned before, if you're going in to do a full refurb on a place, then it's not such a big deal
to insulate it. And
if you're maybe talking about replastering it or putting new plasterboard in, rewiring it, new plumbing and stuff, it's actually easier if that's been stripped out in many ways, and then you're just talking about putting in the insulation.
If you're doing that full refurb anyway.
So it's probably the ones that are okay-ish properties will probably be harder to justify doing it, where if it's just obviously needs start again and you can get it at an appropriate price, then you're going to have a really good property at the end of it compared to a lot of the other ones that are on the market that are sitting at that okay-ish.
I would have kind of disagreed with that before the cost of living crisis came in, because I thought, no one really gives a shit. They just go look at the flooring and the kitchen and the bathroom and stuff like that. But people are more and more aware of the efficiency of a home and how much it's costing to heat. I thought I could use my hot tub in my house I just sold as a negotiations to get over the asking price and actually leave it. And I found that 88% of people didn't want me to take it. Before, I think the last time I managed to negotiate an extra $8 for my $2,000 hot tub, and I thought, fucking brilliant, I'll do the same again. Most people were like, no, take it away, it'll cost too much to run. So, well, I'm giving you a free fucking hot tub, and people were like no. So I found that very interesting, and I wondered, because I've renovated properties before where it's septic tank stuff like that, and no one even thinks about it. They're just don't even look at it. It's on the home report. You're openly shown it, but because it's got lovely flooring, lovely kitchen, it's just it's cool. We're moving here, but. I think this EPC rating is going to become
the amount of hot tubs that you saw purchased. The hot tub sales over lockdown. Remember, hot tub sales over lockdown went crazy, and then now all you see around their tenants and all that. When you go to their houses, you go in the back garden. There's a deflated one of these deflated hot tubs, just bursting, gathering mold and all fisty out the back.
No one's playing them anymore.
Sorry, Neil, you were going to say something.
I was saying on the EPCs, I think we're all aware. You can look at it and it says how much it would cost to improve it. If I could install a boiler for that price, happy days. But the other one is that it kind of shows an estimated running cost, as in how much it's going to cost you for a year to run that. I think they've also accepted that that's completely out of line where it is, but apparently that's a way to be updated. So it'll be interesting what that looks like, and if anybody starts looking at it, because I'm not really aware of anyone really looking at that, and I think that's partly because it's so inaccurate. So they're actually updating. Well, obviously the cost of gas, electricity has changed. They're supposed to be updating that in the current EPCs going forward. So,
sorry,
I was going to say, surely that's a point of when the EPC gets done. It should be a calculator that looks at it and goes, okay, it's gas and it's right now it's 22p a kilowatts average, or electricity next X watt kilowatt should get inputted in to give you an automatic formula with the assessment, surely.
Yeah, but it's not live, if you like.
Right.
It's we updated it whenever, and now it's going to be updated. They're saying it's a way to be updated, I think, fairly soon actually, but then there's no saying when it'll be next updated after that.
So you're going to be updated from next month or the month after, but it might increase another 60% over the next year, and it's not a true reflection.
I've an EPC done last week and one done next week, and they've got totally different running costs on them, but I'm not aware of anybody looking at that, and that's probably not going to change because it's always going to be out of date.
Is that not more important to get that process and that assessment side of the EPCs right before we start putting in deadlines and targets to get the ratings to the same level?
I suppose the challenge with that is, but then that's the case there. If you do one last week and then do it next week, it's different. So you would always have that, so you never really be compare it, because the EPC assessment process has got a lot of limitations and it makes a lot of assumptions, but their idea behind it is at least you can compare the two against each other. So it's just a way of comparing things. But it does have a lot of limitations because of that.
And as a letting agent and an EPC assessor, right, Do you have a stock answer when a tenant turns around in a property and says, how much are the bills? Because that's always a question that catches me out, and I just can't. I don't give them an answer. I just say, well, it depends on how much you know how much the electricity. It depends on how much you use it. But you don't want to come across as a kind of, you don't as an arsehole. Do you know what I mean? So you try and give them some sort of answer.
I've been tending just to try and ask the previous tenants, but again, you don't know how they're using it.
Exactly.
You don't.
It's a question that, like, honestly, like 70%, I would say, tenants ask you that question.
I'm laughing because I know I was taking a delivery up at the HMO project in Aberdeen and Spittal, and a few students walked past, and I was like, do you want to come and see the best student apartments in Aberdeen coming soon? And they were like, yeah, we've been down to get a look at this building. So I took them in, and they were like blown away by the flat, and that's all they kept asking me was, hey, but how much, just including bills, and how much does it cost to run it? And I was like, shit, I was totally taken on the back foot because I've never used to showing potential tenants about a property, but I just took it on the off chance of those students walking past, let me try and get the word out there, and then they were asking about
probably a route you probably don't want to go down at the moment, is it? Include bills included?
No, we do that in our a commercial building where the offices are. We've got 8 rooms above that we let out on. It's all inclusive, but we're fixed rate until 2024, I think. Right. So hopefully by then it'll calm down. But yeah, for a while I was thinking,
it's like wholesale gas prices have come right down, but they don't seem to be knocking it on at the consumers.
No, I found when I was looking up some stuff the other day that there's like a graph what the percentages, and I think it's about 30% of the price of gas that we get charged as users is the wholesale price. Yeah, so it's a decent amount. The build up of it.
Anyway,
and going forward for your own business and how EPCs are going to go in, how are you advising people if they're coming to you, like investors and your letting agent looking to buy more properties? Are you moving them away from properties that you think are going to be, that's going to cost too much to renovate to get it to the rating?
It depends on their strategy quite a lot, but my general advice to them is always, either come to me or their local assessor, whoever they're dealing with, and just have a quick chat about it and assess it, see what is done. But most of the EPC assessors, like you do your due diligence and you've maybe got like comparable properties and stuff. If you've looked at, if you've got that data, I'm quite happy to look at that as an EPC assessor and look at the one you're looking at and try and kind of
gauge on what it could be.
But generally, I say, what are you planning to do with it?
Yeah.
And if they say, right, I'm planning to do this, this, and this, I say, well, as part of that, you could update it with that. Make some improvements or not, but yeah.
It's definitely going to be a focus coming forward. Have you seen that in Nick at all? Investors or landlords that you have on your books?
Still not that widely talked about, to be honest with you, but I just see it as really important now, Anything that I buy, I'm just really, if it's something that's just ready, something that I just buy to let out, then I'm really looking for a D or a C. Like you say, it's very much different if you are doing the full rip out, then that doesn't really matter, does it? I mean... And
then I suppose it's the ones you've already got is the challenge, and then you've got to make that decision.
Well, that's the big thing.
Do you sell them, and does this put more stock out of the private rental sector and back onto the sales stock, because you're going, fuck, this is going to be too much to get to an EPC D SE that's good.
I did priced up a refurb for a client just recently, and he agreed to let me look at improving the EPC rating as well. So it came to like a decent amount of money to do it all, but he just went away and looked at his end numbers and what it would have been worth at the end of it. Was okay, that kind of stacks up for me for a long term, holding it back on. So I suppose if you just build it into your numbers, it's...
So I suppose it's different. Probably depends if someone's just buying something for the first time and going, okay, I need to get this a C, or they've had it in their portfolio for 10 years already, it's already cash flow, it's already got their money back, it's already doubled in value. They go, okay, for me to keep it for another 10, 15, 20 years in my portfolio, if I'm spending 10 grand, that's worth it to me.
You are getting some smarter tenants now catching on to this stuff and, looking at their EPCs and now going to landlords and letting agents and saying, look, we're aware this is coming in, going to ask the landlord if he's got any intention of, upgrading the windows or upgrading the heating. Yeah. And using it as a kind of bargaining.
I think a good point you made earlier, Stephen, is that it's come in England, so the mortgage lenders are aware of it and asking about it, even though it's not in here. Scotland's a smaller fry, so they're looking at
across
the UK,
the board.
And they're asking for it already.
Yeah, we got a lot of mortgage products last year for, I think it was Paragon, we're doing a lot of green products where if your property was an EPCC, you got a 0.3 or 4% cheaper rate on your mortgage, so they were incentivising it for better energy efficient properties. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting the way it's going.
Interesting stuff. Thanks very much, Neil, for taking the
problem.
time to explain all that to us. I'm sure that'll be very valuable, educational for the listeners. So
No, absolutely. People have been asking a lot about it, and it's becoming a topical subject. I think it'll become more and more over the next few years.
absolutely. Next big thing on the radar.
Where can people reach out to you, Neil, if they're interested in getting EPC done or any advice?
The company's propertypartners.scot, and we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and if they just search for myself, you usually find me on most of the social media channels as well. So,
Right.
yeah.
We'll put your details in the show notes, mate. Thanks very much for joining us.
Cheers, Neil.
Thanks a lot, guys.